Hello, welcome to our November Catholic Prison Ministry Coalition webinar. I'm Father George Williams, and our guest speaker today is Brother Jesuit, Dr. Patrick Saint-Jean. He is going to be speaking on the spiritual work of anti-racism, and he comes to us from Creighton University in Omaha, where he is teaching in the Department of Psychology. He did his undergraduate education at the Université Victor Ségalin de Bordeaux in France, and he received his graduate degree in psychoanalysis from the Parisian École Lacanienne de Psychanalyse in Paris, and his psych doctorate from the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico. Before joining the Jesuits, he studied, conducted research, and worked in various countries throughout Europe, as well as the Congo, Brazil, and Haiti. He also earned his Master's of Divinity at Catholic Theological Union in Chicago. So we're delighted to have you with us, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Father Williams. Thank you very, very much for having me here. I couldn't be more than excited to be here because to join many of you from all across the country and also to be part of this really this wonderful, very blessed opportunity to share with you. I think I've been traveling the country as well overseas to work, to speak, but such a wonderful encounter as today is not something I get every day, and I'm very, very deeply humbled and honored to be here. And I think today our conversation would be, I don't want to have a lecture per se, but I really would like to have a conversation in family, because I think it's where we can, all of us can come together to heal as people, and also to look deeply down on ourselves to see where and in how Christ has been working with us and what Christ is asking of us, where he's leading each one and every one of us. Mainly, many of you will be or here who will be watching this later on, will come to this type of work oftentimes as a way we think we might come to heal and bring others to Christ, but rather those we've been invited to minister, to work with, they are the ones who are inviting us to work with Christ. Then it's very, very important to be here. And the element of this also we're going to talk to today is that to see how we can heal together as a community of beloved community, as Dr. Martin Luther King usually said, but also how we can grow together as friends in the Lord, as Ignatius of Loyola always said, this edge of growth that we need to happen in us, we have to do it together. We have to find a way and a space and a place where we can be together. In order to do that, we have to be in proximity. That this is what we're going to mainly be talking today about. And if you have any other questions, I will have some time at the end for your questions and concern and everything. But our main point, one of the points we're going to talk about today, we're going to see really like those Ignatians of values and where we are working today in our work. What we could call like Ignatians values in the work of justice, healing, and reconciliations that we are doing with our friends in the Lord, who is either with us outside or inside. In a second, we're gonna see where we are each time we come to engage in this work, it's where we are coming from and what does that mean really for those who are with us and around us. One of the major points is to focus on this aspect of proximity, how we can build proximity together and here. And at the end, we'll gather all of this together to bring this down to, we cannot do this work without being hopeful. We cannot do this work without focusing our gaze on the hope of the one who invite us to be here to do the works. Let's move on here. We can see one of the elements that's very, very important is like Ignatius of Loyola, just like man who used to be like on his whole early life was like kind of like a womanizer. And he used to do everything he could somehow to, to engage in this aspect of like to impress people. And for him, the life that he was like experiencing really like it was nothing else before his conversions. Then all of a sudden, while he was a military man, then between like the Basque country, Spain today, we could say together, was in conflict with France. Then the French guys was coming down. Then his commander-in-chief said, you know what, we are a minority. We've been worn out on this battle. We cannot engage in this. We cannot go. We have to surrender. He said, no, I don't want to surrender. He insisted. He took a couple of guys, go up the mountains of Pamplona, and that's where he had this fight with the French people. And all of a sudden, he received a bullet on his legs, got shattered. All that he carried with him, his dreams, his reality, his hope, and everything's just go down within a second. And now there is Ignatius here, sit down at this time. He was in convalescence, he was recuperating, just like praying, thinking, who do I want to be? And what can be my best values that I can put up right now? I think the Ignatius experience is what invite us here today. Today, as many of you who are here not the eve after a major day of the election, and still now the country is still on the edge because we have many, many other counties, many other states that yet to publish a final result. The questions really like come to us today, I think, is like really, really where Ignatius is talking about us. Who do we want to be as American? Even go deeper down, the element of these is to understand what and how do I want to be remembered? And who do I want to how do I want myself to be touched by this experience, by those who are around me? And for many of you who are working right now in the prison, when we go engage in this experience, who do I want to be? And how I want to be seen, and how I want to be remembered each time I go, I meet with someone here. Where am I coming from? And how this person can really be someone who touched me, transform, and change my life permanently. Then myself personally, prison ministry has really, really challenged me to answer these questions again and again and again. And the majority of the time, I find myself in conflict with myself in my prayer. This is where I come. Mainly, as we can see, for more than 400 years, there is a specific group in this country that has been answered these questions. But let's go back here first with this notion of like prison, how we come to struggle, how we come to challenge ourselves within this. In 2012, December 2012, as I was doing my postdoctorate study in Mexico, I was being contracted by my advisor who sent me out to do a research. I took 5 of the other classmates with me. I was the director of the research. Then after 6 months, I finished to do the research. I was going to present my final result in the data and propositions and directions to the states. As I left the parking of my school, about 3 blocks down, I saw 3 guys. I was driving with my classmate in the car. I saw three guys coming with the guns. They stabbed me. Here I was kidnapped. There I am in Mexico. I am not a Mexican. I just go there for my study, for research, and I got kidnapped by those guys. I was there for 3 days. Within in my group, one of my very, very close friends was a daughter of the governor of the state. Technically, it seems like they were looking for her. But fast forward, after 3 days, I was released with some of the, they give them some money. Then I flew back here, come to the US for some care and some time to process this experience. Fast forward, when right now I was as a Jesuit, I was missions. I will not tell you where anymore. I will not tell you where that was in the country, but I was mission in the country for one of my experience as Jesuit in formations. Then I was sent to a prison to work, which I liked because I used to do it before, but more as a professional. But right now I went there as a chaplain to work with the prisoners. There is myself right now who is working because of my Spanish and Portuguese and also like some other African language. I most of the time was being asked to work with these populations of those guys who do not get their ease in English to minister to them. One of those guys I was working with was one of them among the group that kidnapped me in Mexico in 2012. How do I find out? It's more, he's telling me about his story, and then we just like talking because we speak Spanish and we said about everything. If specifically, as we get closer, he told me exactly what they used to do and how they used to work with this governor in Mexico, where I was in the States. And there is exactly what they did to the governor's daughter because the governor did not want to work with them. And I asked him, do you know so-and-so about this group in 2012? He said, yes, I was one of the 6 guys. I said, okay, thank you. Maybe I will see you tomorrow. When I left, I was mad. I was like heartbreaking. I said, God, how come you could ever dare do some things like that to me? I wanted to take my revenge. I wanted to do everything to this guy. I just go back home. I just like smash the car and just get home. I did not want to talk to anyone. I was deeply heartbreaking. And then I go in and talk to my spiritual director. I did not want to talk. I really, really feel that at this time, really, God couldn't do any, could not have done anything worse to me than that, this encounter. There is my oppressor, the guys who kidnapped me, one of them. Not only in the prison where I work, but I was being sent to work with this guy. And when I go talk to my spiritual director, he said, you know why? I still remember this word. He said, this is not your work. This is God's work. In order to enter in this work, you have to be brave and brave and brave. Today, we are invited really to engage in this work. Mainly, we have to remember one thing that we have received as an invitation is to be brave. The spiritual works of racism in America today, it's a work that even confusing the whole Catholic Church themselves, the whole Christian notions themselves. Why? Because this church, this country has been built, strongly built on those Christian values. And the early stage when the pilgrims were arriving here, the Western Europe keep coming here, They came with notions of deeply predestinations element. They were already predestined to be the owner of this country, to be the man that leads everything. Then what happened? They came here, they killed all of those natives. We've never talked about a genocide we have done to this country. We killed over 5 million natives of this land just to take their lands away and to build that. You know why? We never talk about this as a genocide, simply because those people were never people to us. This is the same narrative that even go deeply down when those people right now, we kill them and bring white Westerners here as guest workers. They could not really produce as we wanted. Then when all of those from Africa, when they came here, we called them slaves, as the same narrative. Since they are not looking like the majority of us, then they are different. They are not us. This element of not being us is what really stick us down completely and hold us back to be who Christ wants us to be. We come with these like in 1857 with the Dred Scott decision that said Black people are way different because they are not fully human. We never ask any forgiveness for that. We passed the 13th Amendment to try to do some things with it. We come with the 14th Amendment to provide so-called equal rights. We come with the 15th Amendment to so-called the amendment to give everybody's right. Yet, a different category of people who are different color than us reverse everything. We say they are not us, therefore they are not human. The notion of like humanity of those who are not looking at us that where he's challenged us to be. This is why Ignatius himself is calling us exactly to do one thing to engage in this is about progress. How can we make progress from what we've been moving from where we were as what we've been like calling what we're supposed to be, how is what our belief is supposed to strongly down in, then moving on as a human to see everyone as human, to believe in them. And we become like human becoming. How we can do this movement from moving from human believing of what we call like the so-called values. What I call values here is how we completely focus on the color of our skin, of what we think the notion of like predestinations, this is the land that has given to us. In fact, being American, it somehow become a value as we can see ourselves, we cannot see ourselves other than American. I even see myself much more American than even being human. Because if I'm human, I will be challenged to see you who is not looking like me, to see you who have kidnapped me, to see you who is not American as human. Consequently, it's easier for me to see myself as American even much more than human. Ignatius challenged us here to move from human believing in our Americanness as the country, the land, the people, of being human, become in to see progress as this call that I have received to go down to work with the people of God where I am right now. The work of racial justice is about a work of progress. It's really challenged us to look at some things bigger than everything else, but as our location. Where am I coming from to engage in this? How can I widen my scope of understanding and to understand that even though this guy who is behind the bar, even though this guy who, make me suffer, but can I see him as a human? To be able to do that, we have to be aware of our location. We have to be able to open our eyes and to understand exactly what does that mean to be human today. In order to be human, we have to go deeply down in our brokenness, either of engaging with revenge, but see this person as someone like me. Going back to my story, my experience at the prison, I call this guy Jose. I give him the name of Jose. As my spiritual director challenged me to go back, I went back after 8 days. Myself and Jose, where is myself? I know, and Jose tell me exactly based on the data how he told me. I know he was the one. And there we are right now. Really how I can understand this element. I sit down with Jose and working. We keep sharing together. And really Jose, based on his story, his humanity, and his way encounter with Christ, Jose's way of praying really increasing, even changed my prayer. In fact, I could even go down deeper to say, this guy made me become a better Jesuit. He made me really, I challenge you to engage on this work of justice and open my eyes and my locations, not as someone he kidnapped, but as a human who is broken. I think my brokenness is what really lead me to this work. It's very, very important here to understand this aspect. And we often come to these notions here as human. If you go back again, it's this notion of predestinations, because as I said to you early on, when the first European arrived here, the white Westerners idea, we already know that I predestined to be white, to do whatever I can kill, I can do whatever I want because I'm Christian, because I was chosen by Christ to be the one who bring you salvation. And somehow, if you give today some of the white, including in the Catholic Church, you say between America and Christianity, between and in the work of God, of the gospel, what are we going to choose? The first thing they're going to choose being America. I think that is where the challenge comes. Who do I want to be? And how I want to be remembered tomorrow? Whenever I go to heaven, wherever we cannot go, what are we going to say there? That's what really Jose teach me at the prison. I think more we are aware of our locations, it's where we the change gonna come. We're gonna have to be in this work together. The sense of togetherness, that's one of the major paints that I like being painted by the Andrea Di Poso, one of the Jesuit artists. He invited us to really to come and gather as one. The spiritual works of racial justice is a work of togetherness. That's where he invite us to not only see anything, but to engage in those values. Our main values, as I said early on, it's really when we engage in this notion of togetherness. And the second element is proximity. One of my major best friends really growing up was my grandmother. My grandmother really died. That's another person who shaped me. Sometime I would have wake up, and when my grandmother was in Paris, he came really like to, whenever he would have come, I grew up in Montpellier as a kid, he would have come and give me a big hug. Sometimes I was like, just like a little boy, just like squeeze me down until I say to my grandmother, I feel you and I love you. That's when she would finally release me. But the element behind this is this sense of like proximity. Until I could feel my mother, that's when finally, my grandmother, sorry, that's when finally I could see that really, I really love you. Fast forward again, going back with Jose, after I realized that Jose was one of the guys who kidnapped me, each time I go and I will give Jose a big hug and I say, Jose, te siento y te quiero. Just like I've said to my grandmother, I feel you and I love you. After, when I finished my time at the prison to work as a chaplain, I couldn't really leave those guys I used to work with for that long. Even today, each time in my prayers, I could always imagine Jose with me, because what Jose has given me is way much more than anything else. He helped me to redefine this sense of how can I be a better Christian, and how can I allow myself to feel him and to love him. This is where the notions came, the aspect of really like the sense of like proximity. When we really like here, we come to this element of like proximity to seeing and to be with one another. It's the aspect of how we want to be and how we want to be remembered. I'm gonna right now invite you to see a video. You're gonna see exactly, I want you to pay attention to what you're gonna see here and what is like the power of like proximity can do to us. Kara, I don't know if, can you go ahead, please?
Well, while we're waiting for that, Patrick, you have a number of questions, and maybe I can bring those to your attention now, and then we can get back to the video in a moment. One person wrote, now that some time has passed since George Floyd and others were murdered, it seems fellow parishioners and some clergy no longer believe there's any urgency to ministering in racial justice. How do we address those people to help them understand that racial justice ministry is still relevant and important?
Thank you very much, Father George. This is a very, very great question. Again, this is where Ignatian Spirituality comes so handy in this work. This is why this is a spiritual work. It's not a reactive work. It's really like something that invites us to action. We do not just like wait until like an external event happen again. Then that's when all of us gonna go, I would give money, come out to protest. But just like the way we engage with the gospel, this is a work of salvation. This is a spiritual works that invite us once again to be part of the creations. If you believe that God has stopped creating the world, the planet, the universe, then you can stop of the spiritual works. But if your faith in the way you come to engage with the gospel invite you to truly believe God is constantly acting and creating this world, that you will never cease, because the spiritual works is a work, is not really a program. It's not our CIA. You don't just come here, you just don't come here and then you get a degree in social justice. You say, okay, kumbaya, I did my work and I'm done. It's a lifelong work. The questions like, are you ready? Are you willing to engage in these? But deeply down, when I go back again, are you ready to engage in this work of creation? where love come to flourish together.
Thanks, Patrick. We have the sound now working on the video.
All right, I'm gonna invite you to write, please, this with me for now. Pay attention exactly to the movement and what is going on. Go ahead, Clara. Thank you very much. This is like, one of my favorite ever seen videos. There is right now 2 people completely left and right. A white man from Texas and a black woman from Illinois. Means like completely different. Yet there is something that's bringing them deeper together. And we all know the love story of those couples around the country. No matter where they go, they always have to express this love. Each one always like left a spouse to go and meet the others. They always have. What happened to these deep notions of like proximity that bring us where we are today? How can we reimagine our sense of togetherness together? I think as really this experience that happened with me and Jose, that really like what stimulated me. That for me really was one of the major elements that invite us to rethink against who do I want to be and how do I want to be remembered? When you going down right now at the prison, do you feel that you're bringing something to those you're going to minister? Or are you willing and open to give something to them and also to receive something? That's what we like this couple often teach us. And that's exactly what is part of the work of creation. It's how we can dare challenge ourselves to go on our belief of we are better, then go and let ourselves be touched. Then when we come here, that's when we finally will be able to engage in this work of hope. The work that you're doing today, it's what gonna give you hope to the world. And the work that you're doing today, it's what gonna make you remember exactly where you are and where we're gonna be. Hope in the work of justice is the key that opens the door of tomorrow. Hope is the essence of love that gives a different meaning to the narrative that we have been asked to believe in. Hope, it's what gives breath to this work of justice. No matter what happened to us, the spiritual works of justice and healing remind us to always focus on our locations, be aware of who we are and where we are, and remember we can always move from good to better. Not just I believe in a human being as white American, only I alone can fix it, but rather, how can I be a human becoming, even though the guys who strike me, who hurts me, but can also have something deeper, stronger, spiritually to teach me. The spiritual work of racial justice, it's a process, not a program. It invites us every single day to wake up, to ask God for the grace, to once again be proximate, come together and see where we are, remember our locations, and always believe in hope as a way we come to this and to be a better human. And always remember, no matter what happened, no matter who they say we are not only disasters, we are also miracle. Let's come together to be better human as we can thrive to be better people. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Along the lines of what you're just saying, there are some other questions I wanted to pose to you. Kathy noted that when you sat down with Jose, the process was very much like doing restorative justice work. And she wants to know if you think restorative justice, or how do you think restorative justice techniques can be used to help with racial healing and accountability?
How do restorative
justice
can help racial healing?
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the mind with which we come into it. Because technically, I did not really come to restore with Jose, but rather I see him. The main point here is Jose is different than me, or can Jose be a human? Was I be able to see Jose's humanity? Because there is a world what is challenging us in the country is to see the humanity of each other. Can I move from being like an American being and to being a human being? I don't hear.
Sorry. Along those lines, someone else asked a question. You've basically touched on this, but perhaps with a little more specificity. She asks, some people equate Christianity with America. They think Americans are better than other people because of that. What are some of the ways we concretely can decouple Christianity with the notion of whiteness, or decouple the idea of Christianity with being an American?
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Really, in America, that's what is a lie we have been told. America has become like a value. This is what I call the value gap, upon which we focus on our whiteness. Even we value American become way much more than Christianity. Am I American or am I Christians? And we've seen that, in fact, in these last elections. You remember all of those campaigns, all of those ads we've had, and you're going to see much more than that. I think the main point of here, who do I want to be? How do I want to be remembered? And then lastly, last point here, I would say, it's the way we engage with the gospel. In America, it's easier for us to go in the gospel with our Americanness. We read the gospel in our Americanness. Then we let our Americanness transform us through the gospel, rather to the reverse, to let the gospel to transform us, to let the gospel see us as we are as American. There is nothing of being that white American, but am I able to let me be touched by the gospel? What is my value? Is being a Christian first, or is being an American?
I was sharing with you before we started today, Patrick. I attended a talk by a brother Jesuit last week, Joseph Brown, and in the course of his discussion, when he was giving a keynote talk at University of San Francisco, celebrating November as National Black Catholic History Month, he said, the Roman Catholic Church tried really, really hard to assimilate into American culture. Now we all have to live with the reality that it succeeded. And along the lines of, by assimilating not only the good things in our society, we also absorb some of the negative things, such as the institutional racism. Can you give us some suggestions for, say, people in parishes or in prison ministry directly, some concrete steps that we can use to address these issues with our fellow parishioners or fellow volunteers? Because I notice a lot of resistance among, say, white middle-class Catholics to engage in this issue. It's extremely difficult to kind of get a concrete hold on it. Any thoughts?
Thank you very, very much, Father Williams. I believe that one thing here we need to first engage, we have to engage with the narrative. We have to change the narrative first. When you go to the prison, as you're going to see what you're watching, you're going to see one thing. Am I going to work with these other guys who is like, no matter what I say, he's in prison, I'm going to always be better than him. He's the other. Or simply, am I being invited to work with a human? This is what, again, that's what makes Ignatian spirituality so important for this work of justice. It's just like an invitation to work together. Second, how am I going to let myself being taught to see Christ in this person? They simply questions here, Father Williams, can I see Christ in you? That's the simple questions. Am I able to have this human spiritual capacity to see Christ in you? Means I've been working with many of my other colleagues in this work of justice. I've been writing a lot. We write means with many other people, publish with people. I've often said that I'm very, very humble and honored for what I have received from the Christian church, from the gospel, which has helped me to give me this opportunity to intersect the work of the gospel with this work, because that's what makes this a spiritual work. I don't know how we can do it without prayer. Mm-hmm. I think we have to pray. We have to pray for and with each other. And when we come to pray, we come to each other just as we are. I've often said that to people, can we go to God naked? I think we have to come with this work of justice in our nakedness, mm-hmm. completely naked, and said, here I am, Lord, I come to do your will. Because the spiritual works of racial justice is the will of God. Are we willing and able to engage and come to it naked?
Thanks. I have another kind of a vignette here illustrating an issue that someone experienced in her parish. And so I'll tell you what she wrote. She said, our parish music director is African-American, and he's been racially profiled, pulled over, harassed by the police in our town, even when he's pulling in the church parking lot to go to work. So she suggested to the members of her ministry in the parish to write a letter on behalf of the music director to the chief of police and the mayor of their town. But the priest who facilitated the ministry said they couldn't do that. Instead, he suggested that the music director talk to the pastor, who had a close, quote, close friendship with the police chief. Of course, the music director did not want to do that because he felt he'd be forced to rely on the pastor's white privilege rather than be supported by his fellow parishioners. And she said she agreed with that. So the question is, well, how do we change policies or within the church itself in order to prevent racial profiling and support people in our parish who experience it without, say, going to the pastor and assuming that he's white, asking him to use his white privilege? It's more a sense of empowerment of the people sitting in the pews.
Number one, let's go with the Ignatian values. One of the important Ignatian values for the work of justice, against is progress. The words progress appear so many times in the Constitution, in the spiritual exercises. It was not for nothing. Is this pastor, the parish, and everybody gonna just get stopped and what used to be the values of American whiteness beings, or can we just move through progress to be human beings, to see each other as human here? That's why, again, I know I said that already, I go back there again. and again and again. And second, how this music minister has been received. Do we see him as simply a minister who is doing a job? He come to do his job, or can he just like also be invited to be a member of this parish, just like all of others? That's the questions here. Yes, it's good to go with all of those procedures and policies and processes, but is there a way this minister can also be a member of this parish?
Thank you. Before we run out of time, I want to make a couple of announcements about the upcoming events. But first, I want to thank you, Patrick, for sharing with us your insights. And do you have a website that people can go to if they have questions, they want to read more about some of your books and your ideas? You're on mute, I'm sorry.
I do not have a website, but I'm very, very accessible online, and I do my best to answer as many emails possible. People write to me directly almost every day, and I've often responded to my Creighton email. They can easily go on the Creighton website. They would find most of my other staff and some other ways also they can really like.
Okay, thank you. That's Creighton University. So thank you. So some of the upcoming events that we have for CPMC are this coming Thursday, we have our diocesan town hall meeting, and that is going to be on post-abortion healing. The causes and effects of abortion are steeped in various forms of trauma. As ministers of the gospel, it's incumbent upon us to adopt a posture of humility and accompaniment when we encounter anyone who is impacted by this reality. So this town hall will be led by Dr. Martha Shuping, and we will learn about the topic of abortion as it relates to incarceration, addresses grief that men and women may experience post-abortion, and help offer other vital approaches to being ministers of healing and restoration. On December 1st, our town hall is going to be a diocesan town hall with Project Avery. And that is an organization that helps children heal from the impacts of having a parent in prison. They'll share about their work of surrounding youth with long-term supportive community with peer and adult mentors, and of empowering them with leadership development skills. So this is really important for people wanting to work with children of incarcerated parents. And our next month webinar for CPMC is on December 7th, same time, 10 o'clock Western time, 1 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll have Sister Annie Killian, who is a Dominican Sister of Peace, and she'll be discussing her approaches to prison ministry as a way of peacemaking. She offers returning citizens and people who are incarcerated a ministry of accompaniment and art, and she offers a space for them to address grief. And she'll also talk about her course, which is called Life After Loss. So those are the upcoming events that we have planned, and we hope you can join us for all of those. Please consult our website, catholicprisonministries.org, for a wealth of resources to help you in your correctional ministry, at whatever level you're doing it. So again, our thanks to you, Patrick, for sharing with us today. It's great to see you again, and look forward to seeing you back here in California soon.
You know, Father Williams, I'm very, very humble and very grateful each time I have this opportunity from you. You're one of my model. I look upon you for these works, and I'm very, very grateful to each and every one of you. Many blessings. Please pray for me. I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, and God bless you all. We'll see you at our next town hall meeting or webinar.